Did you know the IRS just hired more than 50,000 new agents? Most of these agents specialize in collections and are mandated to audit small businesses and increase collections on individuals. IRS notices can be intimidating, but waiting to act could cost you your valuable taxpayer rights. Don't try to handle the IRS alone. These agents are trained to track you into agreements designed to collect as much money as possible. Don't pay thousands of dollars to a marketing company claiming to be a tax resolution firm. Get behind the shield. The enrolled agents at Elite 8 Tax and Financial Services are experts at tax resolution, protecting taxpayers' rights, and are federally licensed to represent taxpayers before the IRS. Elite 8 Tax and Financial Services has the knowledge, skill, and experience to assist you with audit representation, liens, levies, offers and compromise, innocent spouse relief, wage garnishment, back taxes, and more. Don't lose sleep, time, or your rights as a taxpayer. Make your appointment today at elite8financial.com to schedule a consultation and get the IRS off your back. Get behind the shield.
Welcome to Boss Talk Radio, the #1 online business and entrepreneurial talk show. Brought to you by Elite 8 Tax and Financial Services.
Boss Talk Radio, keeping it real, yeah, that's for sure. I said a Boss Talk Radio, here for your needs, we'll crack the code. He the boss.
He gon' fix your situation like there ain't no time for wasting. We ain't playing when we saying
He the boss.
And if you ever have a problem, he gon' show you how to solve it. Listen in and he'll show you he the boss.
Talk
Here's your host, the sexy tax expert, George Andrews.
Boss Talk Radio, here for your needs, we'll crack the code. He the boss.
What's good, Boss Talk family? It's episode 7 on season 4. Man, we've been getting it in. And today, our special guest, we've been trying to get my man in here for a minute, but I want to kind of set a little tone here a little bit because I get a lot of questions about investing, when to invest, and I always throw things back to the education part because to me, if that's that much of a question, it suggests that you're not ready. But one of the other questions that I get is when should kids start learning about money? And we're going to talk about all of these different things with who I consider a financial expert in these matters. So in addition to that, share the video, get your notepads out because you know how we do. We're going to run through some information and you're going to have to go back and, get that thing for yourself or whatever. So you don't want to miss that out. So also give StreamYard your name and your location. So when you're making comments or whatever, we can properly shout you out, etc. So welcome to the show, everybody. Mr. By the Hood, Mr. Corey Kemp. How you doing today, sir?
I'm good, man. How you feeling? Glad to be here, man. Glad to be here.
Man, I am doing awesome, and I'm super excited about having you on. So for those people who never turned on a computer or never logged into anything social about media, tell people who you are.
Okay. So I'm one half of the By the Hood team. What myself and my partner do are we are a community organization that talks about finances. And so when we talk about finances, we talk about buying the hood. And so buying the hood means multiple things. It means actually buying the neighborhood, the houses in the neighborhoods. It means owning the businesses in the neighborhoods that we live in. And it also means showing Black people the love that we deserve. So when we talk about buying the hood, it's all inclusive. It means buying into each other and also buying assets because assets give you time. And so what we want to do is show people how to buy those assets so that they can have more time.
So, I'm here for I think we have more conversation, and I don't know if this is just a result of, my circle or whatever, but it seems as though in this day and age, we talk about as a collective, we talk about more things, money than we did, 25, 30 years ago when it wasn't cool to talk about money outside of your house, or what you're doing and so forth and so on. What do you think is like one of the biggest contributors to that culture shift when it comes to really just talking about money, even if there's no action behind it?
The internet. I mean, we was living in silos, right? And so now we have a bigger audience of people to talk to, and now you're not living in that silo alone, right? So at this point, you and I are in two different places in two different states, and we can have this conversation about wealth. Whereas before, is if you were in your location and I was in my location, we would have had to make a special trip that had that conversation. Whereas right now, you're in the comforts of wherever you're at. I'm in the comforts of my own space, and we can still have this conversation, right? So the ability to have these conversations was made easier by the internet and social media. Another thing, a reason why we're talking about these things is because we can see what the power of money does against us, right? When somebody has a lot of resources, we see the actionable items they can get done with those resources, whereas people like us, or people who don't have as many resources, we have to ask, we have to beg, we have to plead to get things done, whereas people with lots of resources are able to get things done at a different clip. So that those things start to spark, we started to see the disparity in the resources and how they're being distributed, and then with social media, I'm not just talking to my brother, my cousin, and the people in my neighborhood. I'm able to talk to, between all my social media, I probably got about 300,000 followers between all of my social media. So I'm able to talk to, if I want to, 300,000 people. All 300,000 of those people are not going to see my post, but even if it's only 1/10 of those people, 1/10 of those people, that's still 30,000 people that still see that post. So, it's not me. We're able to talk to lots of different people and larger audiences.
Man, you touched on so many things in that response. One of the things I want to circle back to, though, just right at the top, you mentioned the internet as one of the vehicles that's driving the conversation. And I get a lot of heat back when I throw this out there, but in my opinion, in today's age, despite having all the isms and imics, the systemics, the racism, all of these things, they're still in place, they're still there. But it's, in my opinion, in the information age, or we may have gone past that, they may call it something else now, but in that information age, I feel like if you are not actively acquiring and applying information that changes your situation, you should not be complaining about whatever that situation is. It's like
I disagree.
We shouldn't have excuses, to not transition. Like whatever you're at today, whatever situation you're dealing with, there's a resource, there's information first and foremost, not a reason, because resources aren't always accessible. So let me stand corrected on that. But the information,
I'm gonna disagree a little bit, and
y'all have these
not with the premise, but with how the premise is positive, right? And so what I will say about that is that people don't know how to learn, right? Because you got to think about it, right? You got Google at your fingertips, right? I'm a teacher, so I understand how not knowing how to learn things will keep you from actually getting better at things, right? And then I also teach children with special needs.
That was powerful. I didn't consider that perspective. That's interesting. I'm gonna need you to get the shovel out and go a little deeper with that one.
You got people, right, who got smartphones, right? You got access to more information than any of your ancestors ever had at one time, right?
Right.
But if you don't know how to use that information, if you don't know how to acquire it and do something with it, the information is still useless to you, right? And so we're not taught at an early age how to learn. We're taught at an early age how to take in, but we're not taught at an early age how to learn. And so what I mean how to learn is how to take what you know and apply it to situations and then use experience to move you forward, right? So let's just say a child, right? As a child, we're very curious, right? And so we take information in as children, and we're able to use those actionable items almost immediately, right? Because as soon as we learn something as a kid, somebody gives us a test to see if we understand it, right? But as an adult, there's no test. What's the test to see if you understand it? The only test to see if you understand it is one that you would give yourself. But if you don't understand, like people say practice makes perfect. Practice doesn't make perfect. Practice just means you're repetitive. Perfect practice
makes it wrong. It's going to
if you practice it wrong, you're going to keep getting it wrong. And that's what I think about most people on the internet, that they're just doing it wrong. Right? They don't understand that they're not doing it right. Most people don't have mentors. Most people don't have those things that they need to be able to understand information and bring so we're going to have a little bit of talk about this, but people don't want to pay for other people's time, right? But what I tell people is you should always have a mentor if you're moving into a new space, if you're doing something that you don't understand, because that person has what you don't have, and that's experience. Right now is sometimes that person might be try to take advantage of you because they have experience and you don't, but you can't let that stop you, right? Because if that person is not the right mentor, you just move because if you really want that, you just move on to the next thing. You know what I mean? Like you got to have frustration tolerance and courage. You know what I mean? Like you can't just because I done latched onto the wrong mentor a couple times. And what I didn't do is not let it keep me from moving on into something that I was really interested in. What I did was I let that person go and I moved on to another mentor that I felt more comfortable with and that didn't give me that bad energy that I was getting from the other person. And so, if I feel uncomfortable with something, I just move on, because I have, I still have the curiosity piece, right? So you need to learn how to learn, right? And so learning how to learn comes from having mentorship. As kids, we get 1,000 mentors. The younger you are, the more mentors you have. People are always willing to do things for kids, and it's not because they're kids. I'm gonna tell you what it is. It's because kids are curious. Kids ask questions. You know what I mean? That's literally what it is, right? Like the success formula for me, for everybody, is two things: motivation and curiosity. You got to be motivated to start and curious enough to finish. And that's it.
With that said, though, when you say, all right, well, people don't know how to learn.
Yep.
Okay, maybe I'm oversimplifying this. I'm not a teacher. But again, when we go back to this and you say, well, the information is here, right? Let's say I want to know anything about anything, and I go here, and then you said, well, just because they get the information don't mean they understand it.
Yeah, they don't know what to do with it.
Now, here comes the next part. Same tool. If I'm looking at a word or word phrase put together I don't understand, I can literally go and find out what each of those means.
But see, the thing is not knowing, like, even if you don't understand the words, right? What you want to do is find somebody who do. So what I'm talking about is relationships. I'm not.
Well, that's a whole nother conversation.
But no, what I'm saying, but this is what I'm talking about, right? So if you don't understand, you got your smartphone, you in here, you getting information, right? And then you run across a word you don't understand, right? And now you go get the meaning of that word. You still might not be able to apply that information at the highest level. Maybe you're skilled enough to do it, right? Some people are skilled enough to do that. Most people aren't skilled enough to do that.
But don't we still have the how to access right behind that?
Yeah, you could go on YouTube University, right? And I'm not mad at, like, YouTube is an amazing tool, right? YouTube is an amazing tool. But what I'm saying to you is you're going to have to go through 150 videos probably to get
Find
all the
what you're looking
information
for.
to
Right.
find what you're looking for. Not many people had that much motivation, whereas I can build a relationship with 1, 2, or 5 people much faster and get much further much faster, right? So that's what I'm saying, the relationship part of it, right? Instead of being an introvert and living in a silo, you actually go and talk to people, or you find people on the internet whose information you know and you trust, and then you link up with those people, and then you get to where you're trying to go, right? So there's a high likelihood that you're going to get scammed the first couple of times because you don't understand, or sometimes you look up and you find the right mentor the first time, right? But what I don't want people to do is get discouraged, right? Because that's what happens, right? Especially with poor people, because you can't really afford to waste money, right? So then you don't want to pay. But my thing is, by the time somebody gets to the point where they can be a mentor, they're not going to want to do it for free. So you're going to end up having to pay for mentorship. And so this is where huh?
I want to talk about that term, because I think it's kind of abused, and this is just my take on it. There's a absolute distinction between a mentor and a trainer or a coach or what have you. And
I know that distinction.
When I hear people say, I'm looking for a mentor, almost every time I see that, what I end up seeing behind it is a person that's not committed, a person who's looking for the answer key, and even sometimes someone who's looking for a done-for-you solution, quick fix, microwave, don't put in the work. Like, I need this information and I need it to be applied, and I'm looking for the quickest way to get that done.
That's 99% of people. That's why people buy stuff. So here's what I will say, right? You put conditions on your teaching, right? And the difference between a mentor and a teacher is that a teacher is there to help you and to help you apply, and a mentor really actually cares about the outcomes, right? So the teacher is there to give you the information and help you apply it. They don't care about the outcomes because they did their job as a teacher. A mentor actually cares about and helps you apply that information. And so that's why I said it's more about relationships than it is about, like, because you can find teachers, right? Because like I said, there's a million YouTube pages, right? But it's hard to find mentorship. Harder, I will say, to find mentorship. So
definitely harder to find mentorship. But I think the other caveat to that, or at least what I've seen, is, and I feel like you don't choose a mentor, the mentor chooses you. There's this old adage that when the student is ready to learn, the teacher will appear. And there are people that I mentor that the reason that they have the access to me that they have is because I've seen the commitment that they have. And so I don't feel like I'm putting information in infertile ground, and I'm excited to, help them get to the outcomes that they're looking for.
I don't blame you. This is not a blame game, but what I'm saying to you is mentorship comes in all different shapes and sizes, right? And so it's not a one-stop shop, right? You can find mentorship on different levels, right? Where football coaches and basketball coaches could be mentors also, right? They're teachers first, right? Because they got to teach you the skills. And then, they take on mentorship roles with those people who show that extra, whatever it is, or, and it goes the same thing with anybody, right? You're more likely to help people that you like, that you see are doing things. It's the same thing with teaching, right? As a teacher, when in your classes, when you were a student, your teacher helped the people who wanted to help the most, right? So that's human nature. That's not something that, that's like no aha moment. That's human nature. You know what I mean? So I'm really not saying we're not really differing. We're just saying it in a different way, right? Because like in a mentorship, you definitely want somebody who's putting in the time, effort, and energy, right? But you know, I mean, the thing I do with my mentorships is I make you fill out, you know, I give you a certain set of criteria that you had to do before I even take on the mentorship. So if you don't meet those criteria, I never have to worry about you again. So, you know, I eliminate 99% of people right up front by just having criteria. Because when you're taking on people as a mentor, you got to have criteria or people will waste your time. So I just said
I never considered, so that was a paradigm shift for me because I never considered mentorship. I don't see mentorship and think of a cost associated with it, you know, and that's why I say
mentorship. There's almost no cost associated with it. The thing is, I want to see that you're serious.
Right.
So the cost is all going to come in your time and your effort for the very most part. The cost is going to come mostly in your time and your effort.
Right. Okay.
You know what I mean?
We are saying the same thing. Okay.
Yeah. Most of the cost is going to be paid in your time and your effort to show me that if I put more time and effort into you, that you're going to reach your desired goal. Because if I do mentorship, I want you to get to where you're going. And I don't want to waste a lot of time getting you there. Right. So, but the thing is, I'm a teacher, so I don't get a chance to do a lot of mentorship, right? Because I actually teach in inner city schools. I go into school, I reach hundreds of kids a day, right? So, what I want to be able to do, you know, is break down the difference between, like, I don't do a lot of mentorship with those kids. I do a lot of teaching, but I don't get a chance to do a lot of mentorship. So that's why I differentiate between teaching and mentorship, right? What I do is encourage those kids from what I taught them to find a mentor. You know what I mean? Because at this time, I don't have the time to really invest individually in those students. You know what I mean? Like I might mentor maybe 1 or 2 people a year, maybe, because of the time commitment I'm going to put into it once I get started. You know what I mean? But I teach thousands of people a year. I teach thousands of people a year because what I do is I help them set up systems where they can help teach themselves. So that's my thing. I'll help teach you systems where you can do it because then that frees up my time to do all of the other community work and all of the other things that I want to do. I don't have to spend as much time with you if I can set you up with a system where I can help you do it yourself.
You know, you're real big. You and your organization, you're real big in community efforts, which I know has a lot of it has its rewards, and I'm sure it has its frustrations too. What do you believe would be key to the collective changing our relationship with money?
Starting at an earlier age, just because we don't talk about money unless we talk about being poor, right? Or we don't talk about money unless we talk about being rich. We need to just talk about money, period, right? What is it? How does it? What outcomes like? Because money is a tool, right? And so people look at money as a goal, but money isn't a goal. Money is a tool, and so we need to talk about the tool of money, like what does the tool of money allow you to do? Right. And so now we know what the tool allows us to do, right? Because most poor people don't have any idea what the tool of money allows them to do, especially as a kid, right? Because you don't know you're poor when you're a kid. You don't know. I didn't know I was poor until I was in college.
Yeah, no, that's a very interesting point you made.
You know what I mean? Like I had no idea I was poor until I got to college and I see what actual rich people really live like and really look like. You know what I mean? Like it was, you know, so I had no idea I was poor until I got to college. Like I knew that I wasn't wealthy, but I didn't know I was poor.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's a difference between knowing you're not wealthy and then knowing you're poor.
Right.
Like, I was like, oh damn.
Most people, especially kids, just depending on, and I encourage and I promote, you know, parents today that are willing to expose their kids to more, even when they don't have necessarily all the resources to do so.
Yeah.
That exposure changes things.
Yes,
Now
indeed
it
it does.
requires some mental guidance, some parental guidance, because like you said, I had no idea I was poor. And when I figured that thing out, I was like, wait a minute. This don't even feel like that's how that's supposed to go. But before I left that original neighborhood, that original community surrounded by nothing but family and what I knew and saw every day, there was no way for me to ascertain.
Yeah, you had no idea, no basis to base
Right.
nothing to bounce it off, right? Because
I never was
everybody
hungry,
around
the
you was
lights
in
were
the
never
same
on.
situation. And people don't like, I never knew that I was poor because I had everything I ever wanted.
Right. Like you never missed a meal.
Yeah, I didn't, even though I grew up in an extremely poor neighborhood, I never knew I was poor because we were neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
We had, and the thing that I always talk about, and with me and my partner talk about, my business partner, is that human connection, that human energy, right? That human energy didn't allow me to feel that way, right? Because my neighbors loved me, right? My family loved me. So I didn't grow up abused. I know that's the story of a lot of people that come from the neighborhoods I came from, but I didn't grow up that way. Now I grew up traumatized because you see violence and you see those kind of things, but I didn't grow up abused. There's a difference between traumatized and abused. I definitely grew up traumatized because you see things as a kid in these kind of neighborhoods that you should never see. But I didn't grow up abused. My parents went to work every day. My parents made sure that I ate every single day, that my clothes weren't, and ripped and tattered. My parents weren't on drugs. Like, my parents did the best that they could with the situation with what they knew. And so I didn't grow up, even though, like I said, go ahead.
I'm sorry to interject right there, but you just said something that was like, bye y'all. And I challenge adults with this because, it's like a kid, they're sponges, and it's a beautiful thing. Childhood innocence is a beautiful thing. And I always promote, talking about finances earlier on when they have the mental capacity to absorb everything. People want to diminish what a kid can understand, but they actually have the capacity to understand way better than an adult. But for the adults, your 30 pluses who say, well, my parents didn't teach me this, or this was not, normalized in our household, or what have you. Do we not have a responsibility to have some self-accountability at some point? Like, at some point, we have to stop saying,
I'm going to say this in all seriousness. Most adults are just large children, right? Because, and listen, because they're still they're living in the past. They're not living in the present and thinking about their future. They want to go back, because we romanticize things that shouldn't be romanticized, right? And so when I say most adults are just large children, it's because we're still romanticizing and thinking about things that happened in the past, right? Like I said, my parents were great to me. You know what I mean? Like, but I'm not romanticizing the 80s. I grew up in the crack era 80s. You know what I mean? Like, people talking about violence now. I don't know if the violence now was worse than the violence we did. It's just more publicized because everybody walking around with a camera.
Yeah,
everybody walking around with a camera in their hand, right? I grew up in the crack era 80s. Right. So when people be talking about crazy violence and all that stuff, like, I'll be looking around like, this is not worse than when I grew up, but okay. But that's because of my trauma, right? I'm a large kid. I'm not excluding myself from that. I'm saying that most people are living, like, the reason why most people move out of Black neighborhoods is not because they don't find them valuable, but because of all the trauma they experienced while they were in those neighborhoods. And people will tell people that live in these neighborhoods that you gave up on the neighborhood. No, I got away from that trauma so that I could survive.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And so
Repeat that for the people in the back. We ain't gonna just go past that like that wasn't a bomb right there.
you know what I mean? Like, because people will say, gentrification happens because people in the neighborhood don't care about those neighborhoods. That's not why gentrification happens. Gentrification happens because people are so traumatized that they're trying to get away from trauma so that they can survive. And then these people aren't moving out because they don't love the people in those neighborhoods. They always come back to visit those people, but they can't be constantly around that energy. Again, human energy. The thing that human energy, that those it'll send you back in a trauma loop. You go somewhere where you were traumatized for all those years. You've seen people get murdered. You've seen, Miss Johnson up the street get robbed. You've seen Mr. Barry OD down there on the corner. You know what I mean? You don't want to live in that neighborhood for the rest of your life. You don't want to live around that kind of trauma for the rest of your life. So when you better yourself, the first thing you want to do is get away from all that trauma.
Let's talk about the impact that has as well, because I don't know if it's necessarily by design, but we were talking about the crack era 80s, right? And this was during the time where America, but specifically Black America, promoted higher education, college, as the meal ticket to the American dream.
They weren't wrong. They weren't wrong.
But wait, here's what I want to ask on that. So when that happens, though, and you started to see a mass entrance of people going into college in the late 80s and early 90s, like record numbers, and then whenever they would be done and they would graduate, we're talking about the trauma part, but there was another part to that, which was that whatever they graduated in, whatever that skill set was, whatever those disciplines were that they learned, the opportunity to earn a quality living back in that neighborhood they came from wasn't there.
Yeah, because we didn't own any of the business.
So they had to leave. Even if they didn't want to, they had to leave because you know better, you do better, or what have you. And then we have where we're at now, which led to where we're at now, where I know, like, I shouldn't be as amused by this as I am, but there's nothing that warms my heart more than driving through a neighborhood and seeing kids actually outside playing or neighbors talking, because what we see now is you'll have people living on every side of you and nobody knows who anybody is. Nobody's talking. You talked about the human energy part to that. So isn't that like a key thing that's missing while we're trying to give our kids what we didn't have and so forth and so on? It's like,
for sure,
this human connection is.
So two things, right? One of those things that you said is that, they actually know each other, right? It's hard to get to know somebody that you don't talk to, that you don't know, right? That you didn't grow up near, like I make sure my kids go and see their cousins and family in the neighborhoods that, because I still got family that live in those neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. And I lived in those neighborhoods with my kids. Like I actually went back and lived in those neighborhoods for a little while. And my wife was like, "No, bro, this ain't it." Like she's like, "We can afford to live somewhere else. We're out." Like, so, you know what I mean? Like she was just like, "No," because she's not used to that kind of trauma. She's not for it. And I can understand. She was like, "Listen, she's like, you grew up fine out of this trauma, but my kid's not doing this." Mm-hmm. And she's like, we don't have to live like this, and we're not. And so the thing is, getting to know people and that human connection is important, right? But also self-preservation takes over, right? And so where does self-preservation and that human connection meet, right? Two things. My friend Byron Woodson, and I got to give him his credit for this. He says, as an adult, if we want those interactions, we have to move near our friends. And he was like, that is the key to all of this. He was like, adults with means need to move near their friends. And I was like, damn, that sounds so simple. But I was like, we can't get 10 people to agree that the sky is blue. So how are we going to get 10 people? How are we going to get 10 families to agree where to move to? You know what I mean? Like, because I wouldn't mind moving near my friends, but my friends live all over the country. So
I was going to say that. And then there's the other part that goes with that, which is your opportunity may be or purpose may be in this place where theirs is in this place.
Yeah, but that's what makes it hard, right? So it's not that his premise is wrong again, but it's imperfect because the world isn't a perfect place. But the thing that he always says is, if we're friends, I'm going to help provide you with that opportunity, right? You already have a means to be there, right? And so what that is if we're all vibrationally near or at the same level, we're going to help one another because we're friends. We're more likely to help each other reach the, because if you move into our neighborhood and we get attached to you and we want you there, if something bad happens to you, we're going to try to make sure you stay there because we don't want someone else moving into that neighborhood and throwing off that dynamic. Right. And so, it was basically a concept of, when you grew up, the family that you had was your immediate family. And then the block you lived on or the neighborhood you lived in, everybody was kind of sort of like a family, right?
Actually, in my case, it was the family.
But what I'm saying is, we were forced to be, though, because white people didn't want our money. They was like, we won't serve you, right? So we had to serve each other. We didn't have a choice, right? That goes into my premise that integration was the thing that broke us apart and not segregation.
Well, this is a fact. That's a fact.
Right? Because when we had to serve each other, we had more stuff. And then the powers that be, the alabaster people start looking like, oh, they can thrive when they're together. We got to do something about that. So, and that's what they did, because they gave us inferior schools and we still made superior products. They gave us inferior food and they poisoned our water and they poisoned everything around us, and we still grew and we still thrive. And so when they understanding that premise and seeing us thrive in those situations, they was like, whoa, buddy, let's not put them all together like that. And then let's start to actually give them access and then not give them power, right? Because what we don't have is power. We have access, but you can have all the accesses in the world if you don't have any power, because access just means you get to pay me for what I own. You don't have any power. So what we got is access, and I'm not going to poop on my ancestors for getting us access. I'm never going to do that. But what they didn't get us is any power. They got us access.
But if they got us the access, isn't it incumbent upon us to get the power, that next level?
We didn't do our job. They did their job. Their generation did their job because we didn't have access to everything. They got us access. It's our job. It's incumbent on our generation to get power. But the thing is, power doesn't seed without power. Power does not seed to anything but power. And so the thing that we would have to do is be willing to die for that. Ain't nobody willing to die for that, because we don't love each other enough to die for one another.
You say willing to die.
Yes, we have to be willing. The thing is,
most of us are not even willing to get a little uncomfortable, let alone die.
So what I would say about this is that in any takeover, there's blood to be shed. And sometimes that bloodshed and sacrifice has to come from a few so that the many can have. We don't have those few that's willing to do that blood and sacrifice, right? Because I've seen what happens to our greats in there. You know what I mean? Malcolm X family.
History does what it does. If you're not tuned in, it's like, even when information is kind of whitewashed or hidden or what have you, at the end of that, there's still principles in history that you take from, like you just touched on, well, power doesn't have an exchange without bloodshed. I said this prior to the 2016 election more directly. I've always seen it. I was like directly like, look, this is how this is about to happen, and maybe it's for the best that it didn't go the way I thought it was going to go, because I really thought it was about to come to arms in the streets or whatever, and I prepared me and mine for that extreme.
Oh yeah.
But it's like, how do you think a country that was founded on murder
is going to give up that power without somebody getting out of here? Like, you're not getting that power without getting somebody out of here. Or there has to be a major reset. Like something dramatic has to happen. Something that majorly resets the balance of power without having to cede that power, like some kind of natural disaster. Like, I
don't see any. And the reason I say I don't, maybe I'm a pessimist in this, I don't see that happening without the extreme of bloodshed. And the reason I say that is because there's levels of power, and one of the ones that we suffer on is the dependency aspect. My skin crawls every time I hear somebody say, well, they don't give us, or they don't, get the hell out of here. That's part one. But part two, it's like, once you get past all of that, systems that are designed by government makes that dependent. And I'm not talking about welfare. I'm talking about, everything from roads to energy, and we're not going to have control of energy. It's not going to happen. There's no natural disaster that's going to cause that to happen. That's a power that they're not going to give up, So at some levels, there's always, going to be.
That's the way the government keeps control, right? Because the government used to keep control with religion and things of that nature, but all that shit is out the door because people can read now. Like, all the information is out there. So the government is like, all right, this is how we're going to keep control. We control the water and we control the energy. And now you got all these new toys with the internet. We control those. Right. We control all of that. We're not seeing that control what you going to do.
Exactly. So
the thing about that is there are things we can do, because we can take the money out of that system. We can take the money out of those systems. But that would be incumbent upon us to have to move together as a collective to do that, right? Because the thing those systems depend on is humans. They need actual people to be there and feed those systems.
So what do you say to someone who would say, well, we've done that in the past, and every time we've collectively been in one place, it was tore down, we were killed?
I say that those people who built that did an incomplete job of building it, because it's not
about to get good. This is about to get good. Go on, preach.
Because one of the things you had to think about when you build something is how to protect it, and so they were incomplete. They not that they didn't build it well, they just didn't complete the job because they didn't think about how to protect it, because that wasn't what they didn't think about. The heinous people that were, about to enter their sphere, right? Because again, they forced us to be together. We thrived. We weren't thinking about them. We weren't thinking about them at all. And because the thing that's stronger than hate is apathy. We didn't need them. Apathy hurts way more than hate, because now I don't have to think about you at all, right? And so you
bring that one back. We go teach that one.
Apathy hurts way more than hate, because when I hate you, I have to give you energy to hate you.
Wow.
Right? Apathy hurts way more than hate. Right?
That's a good one, Doc. That's a good one.
Right? And we weren't thinking about them. And because we weren't giving them energy and we were thriving, that hurt way more than when we hated them. That hurt way more. We didn't need them. Not needing them hurts way more than hating them. I strive for apathy. I don't strive for hate. I don't hate anyone. Hate takes energy. Hate? Why would I hate you? That means I would have to think about you. No, I don't want to think about you. I want to get to the point where I don't have to think about you. I control everything in my sphere. I don't have to think about what you do. I don't care. right? So apathy hurts way more than hate. And the thing that got those things destroyed wasn't that they hated those people, is because they got to the point of apathy. They didn't need the government. They didn't need outside forces. One of the things that the People's Party, the Black Panthers People Party was trying to do was give Black people apathy. We were walking around with guns in the street because we wanted apathy. We wanted to be left alone. The thing about it is they don't want to leave us alone because their system depends upon us being at the bottom. When we can do for ourselves, that will crumble the system. That would actually crumble the system. The system needs dependency. And if there's no dependency in the system will crumble. And so what I want our people to strive for is apathy. Because
I don't think there's nothing else to be said on that. You just close it down. That's the show, folks. We're gonna see that. Now, but before we check out of here, man, because that was a powerful point, I think, to be made. And before we get out of here, I want to revisit that part we were talking about with the kids and the learning and the efforts that you guys are doing, because I'm always asked, well, when is the time to start teaching kids about money? Or sometimes for, people are more means, they'll ask me, well, when should we start teaching kids about investing? My answer to the money question, when you start talking about money, is pretty much when a kid can count. When you can count to 10, we can have
you
the
need
money
to talk about
conversation.
it before they can count. You need to talk about it as soon as they can talk.
Okay.
Right? My kids, the thing about money is you have to understand its purpose. It's a tool. And so if we're going to talk about hammers and we're going to, if my kid knows what a hammer is, my kid is going to know what a dollar is, because both of them are tools.
Right.
So as soon as my kid can talk, we start to talk about money. Right.
So how do you as a collective, how do we normalize, because one of the things that was like a generation thing, we talked about this right before we got on, was there was a time where it was taboo, to have money discussions, even in the house, let alone outside of the house. So how do we normalize that being the topics now? Because one of the things I learned a long time ago was that conversations were different at those dinner tables or whatever. Money conversations was a norm, and at our tables it wasn't.
It starts with education, right? So if a parent knows, because we normalize it by teaching the parents that it's normal to talk about money, right? And so the same way 15 years ago, you could say, faggot and lesbian and all this other crazy stuff. You can't say that no more, right? So the thing is, if we moving along in society and we can, and we're growing and doing all of these other things, then we need to grow in that way too, right? We need to shift the whole dynamic. We shifted the dynamic, where it's unacceptable to say and do certain things to certain people, because we understand that it's hurtful and hateful to do those things, right? And so it's hurtful and hateful to us to not talk about money, because the thing that's a lot of these problems that we think are social problems are actually economic problems, because we don't have access to money, right? Because you can see the things that people do with money once they have it. You know what I mean? Like, they put their families in better positions. If I got a neighborhood full of people that make $150,000, my neighborhood's going to look nicer than a neighborhood full of people who own $25,000 houses. Not because the people are that much different, but because in that neighborhood with $150,000 houses, most of those people probably own those houses. They care more about those houses. Whereas in the neighborhood with the $25,000 salaries, they're probably renters. And people that, when you don't own something that was not yours, you're going to treat it different than when it's yours.
Right. That's
so it's more of an economic problem than it is a social problem, right? We have to and for it to not be an economic problem, we have to address the economic portion of it. People think it's all social, and some of it is social, right? Because there's social constructs built into the into our government, into the way things are done, that we didn't have any control of, and we still don't have control over. But the parts that we do have control over, we need to take control over. And information is something, like you said, that's at our fingertips. Information is at our fingertips. And so we got control of that, right? And then information and relationships, right? Get around people who talk about this stuff, right? If you know how they say, if it's 5 broke people in the room and you're friends with all 5, you're most likely to be the 6th broke person. But if you go
to your same point, when you're talking about the economic structure and the $25,000, neighborhoods, isn't that kind of a environmental circumstance at that point?
It is an environmental circumstance, but what I'm saying to you is that if you start this, like if we start to go into those neighborhoods, which is what I do, right? Because me and my partner, we used to just go to literal libraries and invite people, like literally go around the city to libraries in the city and say, come out and we're going to talk about money. Literally what money is and what we need to do with that money so that we can be in better positions, right? And we're not going to talk about bettering everybody. We're going to talk about starting with our own household, right? Because if I raise the bar in my household and you raise the bar in your household and we live in the same neighborhood, automatically the neighborhood just came up because those 2 households raised up the standard. You see what I'm saying? So it doesn't necessarily have to go, like I go in the trench. I go into the trenches because the thing is, I know how to look at the numbers, right? I know how to go, like if you look at a map of your city, you can look at a demographic map and see the average wages for that part of your city. You literally can, again, the internet is a great place if you know where to look for information, right? So I know where all the poor people live at because I can see it on a map. I go right to where the poor people at, and I start to tell them to talk about money, right? The way bosses used to keep people and pay people different salaries is because they wouldn't allow you to talk about what people was making.
Right.
So I start to tell people, the one question I start to ask people, I said, what does a millionaire look like? Right? This is the first question I ask adult people. What does a millionaire look like? I said, do I look like a millionaire? Do you know what a millionaire looks like? And then I said this, right? I said, you got your grandmother, right? She worked for 60 years and she gets a pension of about, let's say, $10K a month because she did some odds and ends and she gets a pension and some other things she got coming in. She makes about 10 grand a month, right? My mom recently retired. So I'll use my mom as an example. She recently retired. Everything coming in per month around $7,500 a month, right? Not bad, not great. A livable wage, right? She owns her house and she owns 2 other houses. I said, is my mother a millionaire? And I said, yeah. Because her net worth is going to be, minus her debt. She's probably a millionaire because she owns her house and 2 other houses. She has income coming in from those things, and she got income coming in from multiple different places. My mom doesn't. My mom doesn't project as a millionaire, but you see what I'm saying. But the thing is, most of the millionaires are people that you got people in your neighborhood that can project out to be millionaires.
And I tell people you got to read that book, The Millionaire Next Door. But you touched on something. And I don't want to stretch out too long, but I think it's imperative that you go back and talk about this for just for a second. You opened the show talking about assets, and then you just touched on net worth. Can you give a summary on what net worth is, how people should go about accumulating it, and that value between net worth and assets in that perspective versus this common thing we do as a collective where we try to look rich or whatever?
So assets are the thing that give you time, right? Because assets work for you when you don't, right? So assets are things that you can buy that will pay you and not have to be there to do that. So most people, the asset most people look at is real estate, right? Real estate is a thing that generally appreciates over value, but I would disagree that real estate appreciates over time. But I'm going to save that because that's a larger economical thing that I don't really want to go into. I think real estate only appreciates because the value of dollars goes down, and it's not actually appreciating in value. It's the actual, your dollars are depreciating and the real estate's worth exactly the same thing. But anyway,
not to mention the part about the whole equity thing when you're talking about what you actually paid for the house when you finance it versus movie. Yes,
we're not getting into the larger, accounting part of it. But real estate is a thing that will allow you to gain equity and gain time, right? Because if you own your house and you own a couple more houses, those other houses generally will be paying you something, and over time, that's money you didn't have to work for over time, right? And so anytime you get in, so another thing is the stock market. And so this is what we teach about. We teach the babies 5 years old. We teach them what money is. We teach them about equity, why you got to beat inflation, right? And we teach them what real inflation is. And real inflation is the value of dollars going down, right? We teach them about the stock market, right? Because most people don't know how to run billion-dollar businesses, but the people in the stock market do. And a lot of these businesses have been around for 50, 75, 100 years. So if they've been around that long, what's the likelihood is that they'll continue to be around for another 50, 75, 100 years. So let's find companies that have been through multiple cycles and then buy those companies, right? Like, let's just keep it simple.
It seems simple enough.
Let's keep it very simple. You know what I mean? And then we talk about cryptocurrency, right? Because we're moving to a digital dollar. What most people don't know is that 97% of dollars are already digital, right? We have money out here, but most dollars is already digital, right? Most of the time we're swiping and we're hitting, we're cash apping, and it's just a bunch of ones and zeros anyway. We're moving to a digital dollar. That's happening. And that's going to happen within the next 10 years. The Federal Reserve is already testing digital dollars around the world.
Right.
So that's happening right now.
Most governments are and have been for a while. And I always tell people, don't overthink. I think people overthink the whole cryptocurrency thing. I think that's when you put crypto in front of it, it just boggles people's mind. And I'm like, we, like you say, well, 10 years. I'm like, we're already there. We've been there. The average person, I mean, like, I don't know.
Listen, you got to think. In 2008, people still weren't using ATMs. 15 years ago, ATMs was still kind of new. ATMs been out since the 1980s, but people really ain't really start using ATMs till about, like the mid 2000s. It took 20 years for ATMs to catch on heavy. You know what I mean? Like, so you got to look at, the circumstances. Cryptocurrency is only 13 years old, 14 years old. So you gotta look at the circumstances. Like, it's going to pop. Like, people think cryptocurrency popped already. No. It's like the internet, right? The internet was around for years before it popped, right? We had an actual internet bubble from 96 to 2001, where everybody was just dumping, and then the bubble crashed in 2001. And then from that point on, the internet has been the biggest thing that ever hit economically. Being rich went from being an oil baron to being an information company. All the biggest companies in the world are information companies, and it's because of the internet. It's not because of, and so when you asked me that first question about the internet, that's why I said the internet. Because all of the biggest companies in the world are information companies. Every single one of them. And the information that they have is information on you. Again, that human energy. The information they have is not about, like, they can do sets and data collections, but what they do is individual. Like, Amazon knows you better than you know yourself. That's why you get those things that pop up. Google knows you better than you know yourself, because they do information sets on you. So all the biggest companies in the world are information companies. And so the thing about it is, that's why we teach kids that, the information, so intellectual property, right? Intellectual property. We teach about that. We teach about the stock market, real estate. We teach about precious metals, right? Because the thing that's been around longest is gold, right? That's not going anywhere, right? Gold is a $10 trillion market. That's not going to, even if we go to a digital dollar, gold is never going anywhere because
neither is silver.
Yeah, I mean, gold and silver interchangeably, but gold more than silver, right? Because we've been on the gold standard, we've never been on the silver standard. But what I'm saying is that those things aren't going anywhere, right? Because they have stood the test of time, like as a means of exchange over tens of thousands of years. So you mean to tell me, as humans, we've been trading,
and always will.
We've been trading gold and silver as a means of exchange for the last 10,000 years. We're not going to stop.
Right.
That's not happening. So this is why we teach about those 5 asset classes. We teach about intellectual property, cryptocurrency, real estate, the stock market, and precious metals. And so we teach these kids in a 6-week camp about those 5 things, and they come out ready to invest.
So for the people that are listening to the playback on their favorite podcast player, they can't see the screen. Tell them where they can connect their kids with you to take part in this program or even get more information about By the Hood.
So it's 6 weeks over the summer, and we normally start at when schools let out on the East Coast, which is end of June, first week of July, and we go through first couple weeks of August. Sometimes we'll start the camp in July and then we'll end it in August, but mostly July and August. So it'll be in July or August, depending upon where school schedules fall. And you can find that info at bythehoodcamp.com. BUYTHEHOODCAMP.com. And if you want more information about myself and my partner, you can go to bythehood.com without the camp, BUYTHEHOOD.com. Now, when you go to bythehood.com, there's a free webinar on there about those 4 asset classes for adults. It's a 3-hour webinar for absolutely free that will give you information. And so, and then the thing about that is, if you want to see us, we do a show every Friday, and we do a podcast. And if you want to check those out, you can check those out on your favorite podcast places, or you could go to bythehood.com on YouTube. By the Hood on YouTube.
And for the adults that are really wanting to take things to the next level and really learn how to improve their relationship with money and acquire assets, where can they work with you at?
So myself and my partners, we've built a paid subscription service. It's called mdcstrategy.com. The reason it's a paid service is because it's multiple people giving time and effort and energy to make sure that people who want to get more money can get more money. There are people in there who trade for a living, and we have Forex traders, we have crypto traders, we have stock options traders and futures traders in there. We have a system where we show you how to invest for your long-term portfolio that will beat the market. None of this is investment advice, though, because you got to do your own due diligence and do those kind of things, because what we do is just share what we do. That's why it's called the MDC strategy, right? It's called the $1 million challenge strategy, right? And what we want to do is challenge you to make $1 million with our strategies, right? Because all we're doing is posting what we do. Right. So when you see a trade get posted in there, you'll see what I actually traded. Right. So, I don't just do this on the internet. Right. If you look on my page, you might see 1 or 2 of the trades that I do. But any trade you see me post, I took. Right. Mm-hmm. Because if I'm going to show you, I need to be able to show you. Right. Mm-hmm. And so, but what you have with the $1 million strategy is that it's like 10 of us in there. Right. it's like 10 of us in there actually posting what we're trading. And so it's up to you to do your due diligence to see, if you want to take those trades with us or not. So it's more than that though, right? It's 300 classes, right? Because what we do is all the classes that we've done. We have classes on, oh man, we got mystery shopping classes back there, right? So we had a woman who does mystery shopping for a living. She came in and she did a that lives evergreen in our back office. We have a training on how to sell on Amazon and all of that kind of stuff. So even if you never want to take a trade, there's ways we show you how to go get money any way you want to go get it, right? Because the internet a big place. But my thing is, when you come there, all that information is harnessed for you with people who actually do the strategy, and all you got to do is type into come into our chat. We have a Discord and a Facebook group, and a Discord, a Facebook group, and what you call it, the Facebook. We have a messenger group. So tap into one of those or all three of those things, and go get your money. You know what I mean? Like, nothing is 100%, and we're not guaranteeing any returns. But if you do the work and you follow our strategy and follow what we're doing, you're more than likely you're going to come out better than where you are, just because you learn something. Even if you don't get the results right away, just by learning, because you can learn what you did wrong just as well as you can learn how to do right. So what we teach is the strategies, right? We base everything on the first way to make money is not to lose money. That's our first strategy that we teach. The first way to make money is not to lose it. And so we always come from a perspective of risk management, right? Mm-hmm. Risk management is the first thing that we talk about, and we continually talk about risk management. It's because most people are using money that they can't afford to spend to try to do these strategies. And this is why inside our MDC strategies, we have other strategies to help you make money, so that the money that that you're supposed to be using for bills and things of that nature, you're not using that money to actually, do higher risk strategies like trading. So we want to show you how to go in and, you can make a couple $1,000 a month. Because right now, up until the new year, MDC strategies is $99 a month. At the new year, it's going to be $250 a month. Because again,
are the people that are already that sign up at $99, are they grandfathered in?
Forever? That's your price forever, unless you leave, and then when you come back, it's going to be $250. But you grandfathered in forever at $99 a month. If you think about it, it's 10 of us back there doing all of this for $99 a month. Think about that. So this ain't a money grab, because we ain't making $1 million off of this. This is not a money grab. For 90, we only put a price on it so people don't waste our time, because we were doing this for free.
And I'm gonna give you guys another perspective to look at that if you're tuning in, because I know how some of y'all look at when you see $99 a month. I know this because of how you respond when I talk about life insurance. So we'll approach this different. We'll say $25 a week. And the reason I like to use that number, because it forces you to look at yourself in the mirror and stop making excuses. Because I don't know an adult nowhere on planet Earth, regardless of their socioeconomic standing, I don't know an adult that doesn't
spend $25 a week.
I don't want to use spend, because that sounds, really like not like everybody wastes at least $25.
No, I do.
We all have something that we enjoy. That we're spending that much on just frivolously. So
we
you can spend that to grab some information that's going to give you $50 a week, that never mind.
Listen, I'm not, again, because I didn't come here to sell my program. I came here to help educate and to help do things. But if you want to join us, come join us. We are at mdcstrategy.com. We're always there. That's where I spend most of my time when I'm not out in the community. I'm with these people because they're paying me to be there. And they thought enough of themselves and they thought enough of us to trust us with helping them be educated. So that's where I'm gonna spend my time. I'm not like, you'll see me on the internet occasionally, but really, if I'm on the internet, 99% of the time is with the people who are in MDC strategy. Is because, you know, they're telling me by their actions that's where they want me to be. The other thing about MDC strategy is we priced it the way we did because we want you to spend most of your money helping you to make money, right? Because we could charge whatever we want because it's our time, but we thought about the price when we were making the price so that you can spend the vast majority of the money that you do have trying to make money. You know what I mean? Like, instead of giving it to us, you can use that money to help yourself make money. So that when we thought about the price, we weren't thinking, because we're active, we're making money. We're not dependent on this to live and to, you know how some people, they make their money selling courses or doing that. We priced it so that that's not what we're doing. We priced it so that you can spend the vast majority of your money making money. That's the reason why the price isn't low because it's not valuable. The price is low is because we want you to spend your money making money. Again, community minded. You know what I mean? Like, no, we're not doing it for free. Yes, we have overhead, and no, like, that's what you want is slavery. If you want it for free, what you want is a slave. We're not slaves. We're professionals, people who do these things for a living, who come together to make sure that we better our community. And so if you want to be part of that, come get some. And if not, I hope you get everything that you want out of life. I'm not wishing you bad for not wanting to do it with me. Go get it. Just go get it. I don't care where you get it. Just go get it, because I want you successful so that when we go to do something, because my squad, we're going to go do things, and we're going to invite other people to do things with us. So I want you to go get it. So when we invite you, you don't have to think about it. You know what I mean? Like, because we're going to go get it. You know what I mean? Like, we do things together already, but we're going to go get it. So if you want to come get it with us, come on. And if not, go get it yourself, so that when we say, yo, we doing XYZ over here, you can come get it with us. So that's all. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not a hater, I'm a congratulator. Go get it wherever you can get it. If we not the right place for you, go get it where it is the right place. You know what I mean? Again, human energy. Go where the human energy is right. You know what I mean? Go get it. You know what I mean? We gonna love you either way, but we want you to, like, because we care about the standard. We care about the economic standard. We care about the moral standard. We care about the fabric of our community. And so we try to show that love back in all possible ways. So again, if you don't want to do that, just come watch us on YouTube. Come watch By the Hood on YouTube. Watch us come, talk about, come right here, right? Boss talk, right? Because George, you know what I mean? He's out here doing the same thing we doing. We doing it on different, platforms, but it's the same thing, right? Because by educating you, he's in the tax field. He's in the trenches. Because the tax professionals are in the trenches. There's almost no more in the trenches thing you could be doing, right? Because the thing is, he's keeping the government off your back, and he's helping you to save money by not giving your money away to the government, by putting you in the right places. So somebody like George is a community, he's needed in our community, right? You know what I mean? Like, if you don't have those kind of people, the trustworthy people who could watch over the money that you make, right? Because most people don't know what their biggest bill is when they make money. Your biggest bill 99% of the time is taxes. Your biggest bill 99% of the time when you make a lot of money is taxes. And so
when you make a little money, a lot of money.
I'm just saying,
how much money? That's the biggest bill.
Your biggest bill, generally, your two biggest bills will be your mortgage or your rent and your taxes. Mm-hmm. So for most people, it's their mortgage, because for poor people is more likely their mortgage. For people that make more money, is more likely their taxes. But either way, you still need an accountant to help you through that. You know what I mean? To navigate that, right? Because if you're poor, you want to get more of your money back that you gave the government to hold. And if you're richer, you want to keep yourself from giving away that money. You don't want to evade taxes. You just don't want to give it away in taxes because you don't know, right? So, get with a tax professional, get with George. If you want to learn how to make more money, get with us. We have tax professionals, but we don't have that in our, we don't teach that because we don't have an expert at that. So if George, if you want to join us, you could be our resident expert on, on the panel, but we always looking for experts to help teach our folks about, multiple things.
Say less. I'm always available for community causes. And I know that right in your community, though, as far as like being able to be like at the camps and stuff, my brother Kamari Ellis is
Kamari helped teach part of the camp.
Yeah, I know he's right there in the area, and I know he's involved in the community.
For sure.
Kamari was on like one of our first shows a few years back when we first started the podcast.
Kamari's my right hand man. I've known Kamari for years. We started off arguing about crypto, how I met Kamari, because he said crypto was a bad idea. I was like, crypto is where it's going, bro. You can think it's a bad idea. That's my guy. But the way we met is because he was telling people crypto was a bad idea. I was like, no, bro, that's not it. Crypto is not a bad idea. Not learning about crypto is a bad idea. You know what I mean?
Well, I think if you revisit it now, he's probably changed the tone.
No, he was saying what he'll tell you is he's saying that not learning about crypto is a bad idea. What he was saying is crypto education is needed before people just dump their money.
Oh yeah.
But so I'm not going to
agree with that because I've seen.
I've seen people lose a lot of money in crypto playing around and not knowing what they're doing.
Well, I've seen worse than that. I've seen people like literally have thousands of transactions for a net negative 13 cents. It's like you wasted your time, your energy, your money. Like, come on, like stop that. But we've been talking to Mr. Corey Camp. We're going to have him back because we're over our time, but it's been a great show. Thank you, brother, for coming on.
I appreciate you.
Seeing your continued work. You're going to probably find that your face will pop up when we're highlighting community leaders and whatnot, because when we're talking about finances, hey, yeah, we have plenty of football coaches and everything, and no knock to them. But where I always think the biggest void in our community is financial education, and we salute you and your team and your partners for having the wherewithal and the desire to want to pour that part back, because nobody gave that to you for free.
Nope, not at all. I paid for everything I got.
Yes, sir. This has been Boss Talk Radio. We'll see you guys on Monday for Boss Motivation. Talk to you then.
Boss Talk Radio, keeping it real, yeah, that's for sure. I said a Boss Talk Radio, here for your needs, we'll crack the code. He the boss, ooh, he the boss.